Police ministers around the country are meeting today to come up with better solutions to tackling the gender-based violence crisis in Australia. It follows, of course, the National Cabinet meeting earlier this week with Prime Minister, Premiers and Chief Ministers coming up with a package of nearly $1 billion for women to urgently flee bad relationships. Reaction to that continues. Let's bring in the independent federal MP for the seat of North Sydney, Karlie Tink from Sydney. Good morning to you, Karlie Tink.
Good morning, Michael.
You are arguing that money agreed to at National Cabinet, it's great up front, but could be better spent. How?
Well, 100%. The truth of the matter is, Michael, for as long as we keep throwing money at what is essentially a broken system, which is geared towards women helping to run rather than focusing on holding the perpetrators to account, we're actually doomed to continue to have the experiences that we're currently having, which is the fact that a woman is losing her life in this country every 4 days.
So where should that money, from your point of view, be better spent?
Well, at the heart of this, what I'm actually arguing is we're never going to have enough money to fix this. Throwing money at a broken system is not going to be the difference. I think where we are at the moment as a society and as a culture is at a tipping point where we need to fundamentally tip this issue on its head. We have to stop focusing on the victims running, on the women running with their children, and start focusing on the root cause of gender-based violence in this country and on holding our perpetrators to account more clearly so that we don't have men doing things like we've seen in the past week, breaking bail and killing innocent women.
OK, just on that front, so what would be some of the measures you'd like pursued? Tighter bail laws, for instance?
Absolutely. We definitely need to look at the bail laws across this country. It might surprise everyone sitting at home this morning to know that actually you can commit a sexual assault in this country at the moment and still be granted bail because sexual assault is not deemed a serious crime. It's not deemed to be in the same consequence as a murder trial or a committed of a murder crime. So the fact of the matter is we need to look at bail laws. More importantly, we actually need to look at how we can keep women and children or victims and children in the home environment and force the perpetrator to leave. We have a program here in New South Wales called the Staying Home, Leave Violence program. There are over 138 LGAs in this state at the moment. Only 91 of them have access to that program, even though we know it is effective. It is incredibly effective. We need programs like that funded immediately, not just right across New South Wales, but right across the country.
OK, and speaking of going after the perpetrators, how important, in your view, is it to ramp up education campaigns, messages using male role models to young men and boys?
Look, if this was simple and we only had one root cause, we would have fixed it ages ago. The fact of the matter is this is an incredibly complex system that we're looking at, and education from early years is absolutely at the heart of it. We have to teach young Australians what respectful relationships look like, what they should be able to expect when they enter a relationship, how they should treat each other. But it goes even further than that, Michael. This goes back to the fact that we do not have gender pay parity in this country. It goes back to the fact that we do not have women who have the same levels of superannuation to retire on. We do not have economic security for women in this country. So I think that's what was actually so frustrating about the meeting that we saw take place earlier this week. It's not going to be solved just by throwing money at one part of this problem. As a society, we need to sit back on our heels and actually look at this really deeply, flip it, so we're no longer focused on just women running in fear of their lives, and actually address it as a nation in a way that I know we can, because I'm incredibly optimistic about who we are as a country and our capacity to take responsibility for ourselves. The time for us to do that is now. We don't have another 3 months, which is what the government is suggesting, to wait to see what happens next, because by then another 23 women will have lost their lives.
Yeah, but on that front, and let's finish here, it's been an awful few months, as you say, on the gender-based violence front. Lots of action this week, kicking off with the rallies on Sunday. Do you hope this is a tipping point, and are you positive that finally, we're going to get some change in this area, that we'll see a reduction in the number of women, not just dying, but being seriously harmed by intimate partners?
I wish I could say yes to your question then, Michael. I can't. I mean, we know we have a history in this country of there being these trigger moments where we rise up and demand action, and you see things like we saw this week, which was an emergency national cabinet meeting and money thrown at a problem, and then it goes off the boil. I guess from my perspective, and I know from my community of North Sydney, I'm going nowhere on this issue, and neither is my community. And I think that it's absolutely inherent on all of us that we stay front and centre in this. It is time that we hold our governments to account, our businesses to account, our social agencies to account. We need to work on this over the long term to fix it, and that requires us to keep it up in our top 3 issues.
Karlie Tink, really appreciate you.